In most years, the international signing period goes by without many people noticing. In 2025, however, it's garnered a little more attention thanks to the pro-ready Japanese phenom Roki Sasaki headlining the class. It may not be as hyped up as the draft, but could be just as vital to a team's success. Players like Fernando Tatis Jr, Juan Soto, Elly De La Cruz, Ronald Acuna Jr, and pretty much any player that you can think of that was born outside of the United States, Canada, or Puerto Rico has entered the league this way. It can lead a team to a lot of success. But this process is one that's much different than the draft. The players are a lot younger, the results are a lot more volatile, and the top players have much more risk attached to them. Ranking these players is a challenge, and even analyzing the accuracy of the rankings is also not easy. There are multiple lists that get published every year attempting to classify the best international players, but are any of these successful? Is it just a guessing game? There are many factors that go into the difficult international prospect puzzle, and there's one team that has seemingly solved this puzzle. This team has dominated the league for a long time, and a lot of it's because their ability to navigate the international prospect pool. Who is it and why? Well, first, we need to start off with the basics of this puzzle, and that's how this whole process works. Before we get into it, if you enjoy the video, I would appreciate it if you subscribe. It's completely free, and you can always unsubscribe at any time. Players who live in the United States, Canada, or Puerto Rico can enter a major league organization through the first-year player draft. These players are eligible for the draft once they've completed high school, or for players who choose to go to a 4-year university are eligible after their junior year. These players are often in the range from 18 to 22 years old. However, international players who live in any other country in the world are not eligible for this draft, and they must be signed during the international signing period. To be eligible for the international signing period, a player only needs to be 16 years old. Before 2016, teams could spend as much money as they wanted to on these players. The only thing preventing them from doing so was a soft cap that the team would have to pay taxes on any overages. Starting in 2017, each team gets an allotted bonus pool, which they can use to sign these international prospects. The value of this bonus pool is dependent on a lot of different factors: the size of the market for the team, if the team signed any free agents with qualifying offers attached to them, if the team was over the luxury tax the year prior, and to top it all off, teams can trade bonus pool money. Here's a list of all 30 bonus pools for the 2025 signing period. Teams use these pools to give out bonuses to the international prospects to encourage them to sign with them. Essentially, they can only spend the money that they're allowed to, so they must spend it wisely. Some of these bonuses can get very high. This year, the Mets signed Elly Pena to a deal worth $5 million. Obviously, this is a very hefty investment for a kid who's only 16 years old and has not faced anywhere near major league competition yet. It's very hard to project how these players will pan out in the big leagues. This is one of the biggest problems when we talk about this puzzle. There are people out there that do make projections for these players, but just how accurate are they? The three main prospect ranking publications that you may have heard of are MLB.com, Fangraphs, and Baseball America. Ranking international prospects is so hard that one of these publications doesn't even attempt to do it, and that is Baseball America. The rankings that they put out every year are only ordered based on how much money the players get. MLB.com, on the other hand, has released their rankings every year since 2012. Fangraphs has done it since 2015. Now, it's not the easiest thing in the world to analyze the accuracy of these rankings. First off, we have to wait at least 8 years after the players are signed to really determine their value to a major league team. If you do the quick math, we're in 2025. 8 years ago was 2017. That means we don't have many rankings to even evaluate. Fangraphs only has 3, and MLB.com only has 6. Also, these rankings don't really include that many players when you compare them to the rankings for the draft. If we look at the number of players ranked year by year, you can see that the numbers aren't that high. MLB.com has ranked 30 every year except for 2012 when they ranked only 19 for some reason I'm not sure of. You might see some years that are less than 30, but those are just repeated players that were ranked in the year prior, didn't sign, and were included in the next set of rankings as well. We don't want any duplicate players in the data. For Fangraphs, the size of the rankings are a lot less consistent. In 2015, they ranked a lot of players. I cut it off at 35 because after that, they were all given 35 future value grades, and this was also a good cutoff for a comparable dataset to MLB.com. In 2016 and 17, they ranked a lot less players, so I was able to just include them all. If we measure the success of these players using whether or not they made the major leagues, we start to see another piece of this puzzle come to light. Most of these players don't succeed. And remember, these are players that are ranked around the top 30 by either of these publications or both. Only around 30% of these players actually ever debuted for a big league team. Let's go even further with this. Only 7.7% of these players made the majors and contributed over 5 WAR in their career so far. This means that around 92% of these top prospects haven't really even ever contributed to a major league team. In 2024, over a quarter of the WAR was attributed to international players. So obviously, these players play a pretty sizable role in the game today. It seems like the top prospects just aren't always the ones that perform the best. This points out the volatility of these players. A lot of the time, the top prospects don't perform well, but some unknown and unranked prospect will end up being much better. Ronald Acuna Jr, for example, was never even ranked and only received a $100,000 signing bonus to sign with the Braves. Yet, teams spend millions of dollars on these top-ranked players every single year. So far in the 2025 signing period, you can see what these top players are going for. If we look at the 2015 international class, we might get an idea to why teams are doing this. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was ranked at number 7. Juan Soto was ranked at number 25, and Fernando Tatis Jr. was ranked at number 30 on MLB.com. Even though most of these players don't turn out well, teams are still trying to find the next big superstar. An interesting fact about these three is that if you add up their signing bonuses together, it would still be less than what the number 6th ranked prospect, Lucius Fox, got from the Giants. And Lucius Fox is not quite up to par compared to the rest of these guys. So obviously, these players are really hard to project. Is there a better ranking between the two? Is MLB.com better? Is Fangraphs better? The answer is probably not. If you look at the 2015 through 2017 classes, the ranked players on MLB.com were worth 221.4 BWAR. The players that Fangraphs ranked are worth around 195 BWAR. MLB.com ranked 87 players and Fangraphs ranked 85. This gives MLB.com the slight edge when it comes to WAR per player ranked. Some notable players on MLB.com's rankings that Fangraphs omitted are Fernando Tatis Jr. from the 2015 class, as well as many Cuban players. This might be because players from Cuba have to defect first before they can join a major league organization, which could throw off the rankings a little with the different timelines, and Fangraphs might not even count them as international prospects because some of them are much older than 16 years old. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that ranking these teenagers reliably is pretty much impossible, and trying to determine which ranking is better, also probably impossible, for the reasons I've already mentioned and given the fact that we don't have many years to work with. But enough with these rankings, let's talk about what really matters, the team's performances in the international market. If we look at which teams spent the most money on ranked prospects from 2012 to 2017, we can see there's a pretty large disparity. This was mostly because this was partially before bonus pools existed. The Red Sox and White Sox spent massive amounts of money on Yoan Moncada and Luis Robert, which is why they're all the way at the top. These guys were a little older since they came out of Cuba, but that's still a lot of money to throw at a teenager. Which of these players actually succeeded, and did the teams get their money's worth? Well, here's the WAR for all of the players that the teams signed. As you can see, there's almost no relation, and the WAR numbers are pretty unpredictable. But these WAR numbers also are the players' career numbers, so not all of the production is necessarily going to the team that signed them. I'm looking at you, Randy Arozarena. This doesn't really show us which teams are getting the best value, but it's pretty clear that paying for a great prospect does not always guarantee success. The Yankees have forked up a lot of money for prospects from 2012 to 2017, but these same prospects have been worth negative WAR in their career. The inverse is true as well. Just because a prospect doesn't get a huge signing bonus, it doesn't mean that they won't ever perform in the majors. But some teams have managed to siphon out a lot of talent from the international prospect pool, one team more than others. Which team is the best at solving the international prospect puzzle? To get a better idea which team excels at this, we only want to look at homegrown talent. Only include players that signed with the team through the international signing process, developed in the team's minor league system, then produced for their major league team. So let's look at all homegrown international players since 2019. When we do this, the Astros are on top by a pretty large margin, and it's actually much more impressive than it looks. When you look at some of the top teams that are close to them, they're largely propped up by 1 or 2 star players. The Red Sox, who are in second, are held up by Rafael Devers and Xander Bogaerts, unsurprisingly. They account for over 40 WAR of the 50 total that they have. The Braves are mostly from Acuna and Albies, the Guardians are almost entirely Jose Ramirez, and the Angels are obviously mostly Shohei Ohtani, who really wasn't even a prospect when they signed him. The Padres have Tatis, the Nationals have Soto. The Astros, though, have several players contributing to this count. Jose Altuve, Framber Valdez, Ronel Blanco, Christian Javier, Luis Garcia, Brian Abreu, Jose Urquidy, and a few other lesser names. Most of these names you're probably familiar with because these guys were a huge part in the Astros winning a World Series in 2022. They're also a huge part of the Astros sustaining what seems like endless success over the past decade. These players were also not top prospects. Jose Urquidy was worth $100,000 when he signed in 2014. Brian Abreu got $40,000, Luis Garcia got $20,000, Jose Altuve only got $15,000 when he signed with the Astros in 2008, Christian Javier received $10,000, and Ronel Blanco only got $5,000 in signing bonuses. Talk about a return on investment. I'm not saying that other teams up here are lucky, it's obvious that the Astros know what they're doing when it comes to the international signing period. It's not like they've just stumbled across one superstar who turned out to be one of the best players in the league. They've scouted, signed, and developed multiple everyday contributors for winning teams. They've succeeded in both quality and quantity, whereas most other teams near them only have the quality part. It's no surprise to see a team like the A's at the bottom. The Athletics, according to the data that I've collected from Baseball Reference, only had one player in the past 6 seasons to record a positive WAR that was originally signed internationally and developed with the team. That was Luis Barrera, who put up .3 WAR across the 2021 and 2022 seasons with the Athletics. A lot of fans blame the lack of spending for the A's failures, but it's pretty clear that they aren't developing their own players well either. When you develop good players, you don't have to pay them for 6 years, so spending clearly isn't the only problem in Sacramento now, I guess. The Pirates, Marlins, Tigers, and Orioles are in a similar boat. The Tigers and Orioles have managed to excel in developing their domestic talent recently, but one common thing amongst these 5 teams is that they've been really bad recently. The Orioles have been great for 3 years, but before that, they lost over 100 games. The Tigers were good last year, but before that, they lost over 100 games. The Pirates have been bad for a long time, and they also lost over 100 games. Developing homegrown talent is essential to small market teams. Just take a look at some of the successful ones. The Guardians and Rays have been successful a lot more often, and they obviously have an upper hand in the scouting and developmental aspect of the game. This makes it pretty clear. It might have already been obvious, but scouting, signing, and developing talent, especially international talent, is very important to a team's long-term success. And it's not a surprise to see that the Astros have done it the best, given the fact that they have the second most wins in the league in the past 6 seasons combined. Let's face it, the league would be very boring without international talent, and it's the source of a large portion of the stars in Major League Baseball today. The international signing process may be tough to analyze, and the players' futures are not easy to predict. No matter what list you look at online, most of the top players won't even play a single inning in the majors. While some teams rely on a few superstar signings, others, like the Astros, seem to have solved the international prospect puzzle, building a dynasty with some major help from international homegrown talent. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.